Hey, John, boy. Hey, how are you doing? All right, we're almost ready to go.
Yeah.
How are you?
All of a sudden, like
Good.
a rat just showed up. Morning.
Cars are still parked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Okay.
What keeps my drive shorter? It's not all bad.
No. Yeah.
You're gonna hit the ditch. Do it in your
Perfect. Am I muted now?
Yeah. We do.
I think so. Nope. Yes. Can't hear.
We're close.
I can hear it. I am not muted.
I saw her just.
Interview.
Yeah.
I'm Scott.
Oh, good job.
Okay, as soon as Dad's in, lights are off.
Start. If you could all put your hands together and welcome to the stage everybody's favorite host of the SABC AGM morning show, Scott Lobenstein. Oh, thank you. Thank you, and welcome here. Thank you. I know you're all largely rural, so let me put you at ease and we could talk about the weather. How are the roads coming out? Everybody was comfortable? You're glad? Did everybody get to talk about the weather yet this morning? Yes, that's good. I am Scott Lobenstein, if you don't know who I am, and this is Karina and the AGM Morning Show Band. Where is the rest of the band?
They got lost along the road.
Yeah, there was terrible weather today, so we're naming the instruments, and we're gonna go, just band members from there.
Oh, yeah.
They're sort of like the Beatles; they've broken up.
I'd never break up though with myself, so it's
That's good. She stayed together this whole
yeah,
time.
stay together.
We're glad you're here. Thanks for helping me out today.
Oh yeah, no worries, Scott. What a pleasure.
What a pleasure. She doesn't know what's coming.
I
I'll
know.
tell you right now. We want to welcome everybody who's on live stream. If you're following us on Facebook or YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment and put that there. All right. So a couple of jokes to start us off. I'm telling you their jokes so you know when to laugh. So thank you. So did everybody see my promo video for coming up on this? Yeah. I mean, after that promo, we were joking, saying, "Oh, we'll pretend it's windy out." And then we were in Lethbridge, and of course we walked outside, and it was windy out. Yeah, I had to change to this outfit after my tux is probably still in a Caragana somewhere down near Bow Island. Tell you, it's very windy down there. I did grow up here around SABC. John was a big influence, so if I do anything wrong today, please blame John. I was talking to a bunch of when we were here, there was a thing called Light Force. It was sort of like before Telios. It was like leadership training, and I was talking to a bunch of those guys. And I'll be sharing stories throughout the day about that, so John, be prepared. If you know Tanya, that's my sister, and this is my parents down here. They've come today just to keep an eye on me, to make sure that I don't do anything too bad. They've been trying for many years. They used to tell me, remember, whatever you do reflects on us. And they're like a broken mirror at this point, just shattered. My wife and I were talking about coming down here today, and we both grew up at camps. I spent a lot of years here, and I went to other camps, and she grew up at a camp out near Sundre. She spent all the time there. She was actually a underwater ceramics engineer there. She started in the dish pit and did a lot of work there. And of course, Sundre's beautiful, trees everywhere. And she said, when she was a counselor there, they used to have to do tick checks on the kids all the time. And she said, did you guys have to do tick checks at SABC? I said, no, this was 30 years ago. There were no trees there. There was 0 trees up there at SABC. Well, I've gone astray. But so these notes are mostly irrelevant. But the one thing when I was talking to some of those Light Force members, we were talking about some of the things that, we used to do at camp that are probably not okay to do at camp anymore. There used to be a ropes course here. Do you guys remember the ropes course? Anyone have any? Did somebody die on the ropes course? Like, what happened to the ropes course? It was like very extravagant. They all remembered us doing the zip line in our underwear in the middle of the night one time. I don't know how that got sanctioned exactly. I do remember that my sisters had bought me glow-in-the-dark boxers, which might have been the impetus behind the whole thing. But, there was a few things that we used to do. I remember one time we bobbed for O. Henry's in Mellow Yellow in like a toilet bowl. It was like a competition. And I don't think that would be sanctioned anymore here at SABC. Thank you. Normally, comedians make a joke and then pause for people to laugh and her to do something. So she's just got to work in wherever she can.
Hey, I was more than prepared to take a hammock up here and just
Yeah, she was.
like.
We were doing some weight tests on these up here so she could rest.
Work.
So there was a competition with, do you remember this, John, with bananas and Sprite? And I was looking it up online just to make sure that I was right, that we used to do this, eat bananas and Sprite. It's literally a chemical thing that you cannot keep in your stomach. So it was like just terribly explosive. I remember morning calisthenics. Do you guys still do morning calisthenics out here on the field? I don't know how you talked all the children into doing morning calisthenics, and what poor counselor had to try to get like a group of 500 teenagers to do morning calisthenics. I no idea why we thought this was a good idea. I do remember counselors climbing on the roof of the old lodge and doing announcements from up there to the morning calisthenics group, which I'm pretty sure would not be sanctioned anymore. I remember there's a couple more that I remember. One was we used to do, and it was a famous every year, popular. I don't know if it was just an airing of grievances, but it was a camp-wide pillow fight. Literally, all the kids with pillows in this field just beating each other. I think the next year they brought a nurse on staff. So it was just amazing. I remember we used to roll down this hill over here towards the lake in a tractor tire. They just roll you down. That was one of the activities. They've really expanded the activities here at camp. And probably the number one thing that I remember from my childhood here at camp that would not be sanctioned anymore, and probably even pre-COVID would be unsanctioned, was a long piece of eaves trough laid across tables in the dining room, what used to be below us here, filled with ice cream, bananas, whipped cream, fruit, and then just 100 kids with spoons in there, just like pigs at a trough. I'm pretty sure that wasn't been sanctioned for quite some time yet, but they all went home sick, but it was the end of the week they usually did it at. So anyways, welcome here, everybody. Welcome here, and thank you for the AGM morning show. All right. I think there were some things they wanted me to say. We're going to put a number up here on the screen. If you have any questions, not about my performance, because that is unknowable, but if you have questions about the meeting or anything that's going on, please text them to this number, and we'll be addressing them at the end of the show and throughout. So welcome here. I think our first thing is to bring up George and Heather. George and Heather, these are a couple of our board members. We're gonna do some interviews with them. They're very nervous, so please give them a round of applause. Welcome here. Welcome to the AGM morning show, you guys. Join me on the couch. We actually took out all the supports under that couch, so you guys are probably leaning towards each other. It's an attempt to make people look friendly on the show. Yeah, why don't you guys grab those mics behind you there, and we'll go through this. All right. So you guys are on the board. Tell me how long you guys have been on the board.
I've been on the board for 1 year.
1 year. How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
That's good. That's good. A rave report. So if you're looking to get on the board, please talk to her. George, how long have you been on the board?
It takes longer than a year. It's on. takes longer than a year to get to know what's going
Yeah.
on. So she's just catching on.
She's just figuring it out. Yeah. So how long have you been on the board?
That's a good question. Since about 95.
So it's a lifetime thing. Once you're on,
Yeah, you're on.
Heather, you're quite young. Like this is a long haul for you.
I know, I'm stuck here for a while.
Yeah. Wow. I had no idea. So if you were thinking about getting on the board, it's a short term, only about 30 years. That's great. So you've served for many years. As a board member, you do a lot, and you wear a lot of different hats. What are some of the different hats you wear around here at camp?
Oh, let's see, my hats. I'm a father-in-law to somebody on here, so I get roped into doing different odd jobs around the place.
Do we want to name them? Do you want to call them out? I mean, I've already talked about all my family, so.
Yeah, John Keller.
Now, please remember that whatever you do up here on stage reflects on him, so.
Yeah, well, it's been going the other way for a really long time, so I'm okay with that.
Also remember that whatever you say, he is coming up here later today, so yeah.
I'll be careful.
So you do odd jobs around here. Is that normal for board members, Heather? Is that going to be? Are you going to be doing some maintenance here in the future?
Not so far.
No, it fits with whatever our giftings are and things that we do. I think most board members are very involved in the camp, not just at board times, but with their churches in supporting it, as well as on campus here, just to help out in any way they can.
Yeah.
It's just fun. There's nothing I'd rather be doing.
That's what everybody says. Boards are fun. Yeah, it's a common thing. So I'm glad that it's continued here at camp.
Yeah, I'm an anomaly, so I actually like board meetings.
Well, in fact, why don't you walk us through a typical board meeting? Tell us how fun that is.
Okay, I will. So we start with a time around the lunch, because we usually come down here to have the time we gather just to get to know one another, because it's very important at a board level that you actually know who one another is, so you can speak honestly to one another when you get into a board meeting. and then in the board meeting itself, probably the key pieces are the report by John as executive director, where we hear from all of his key reports. So they all report to him, and we get bits and pieces of that. That for me is probably, well, these are two really close. Most exciting things that happen at the board time, because you hear what's happening at the camp. You hear the things that are happening in kids' lives, that are happening in staff lives, that are happening through the camp ministry, and it's just exciting.
Yeah.
And the second one, that's a close second, is the financial reports. I know.
Again, said by everyone everywhere.
But yeah, here they're different.
Yeah.
Because here they're about God stepping in and doing things that leave you with your jaw hanging open.
Yeah. And we're gonna hear about that today later. That's awesome. Tell me your favorite thing about Ted.
He makes me laugh at every meeting.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, after last year, they wouldn't let him come up on stage anymore this year. You see, you guys are now doing the interview. He's not. So I don't know what that tells you.
Well, he does like to talk, so.
Yeah, we ran long last year. So, we focus a lot about leadership here at camp. SABC, they're not just working with the kids, with all these young people who come here and serve. They pour into these young people and do leadership. As board members, what's the thing that you've learned here at camp about leadership?
I think people just have a really heart to serve young people. And yeah, it's just amazing to see the passion of the staff wanting to pour into students, whether it's campers or leadership team, and just grow people in their faith and in their spiritual walk with God.
Yeah. As a pastor for 28 years in a church, the thing that SABC has done extremely well that I've seen in the kids in our church was so often we'd have kids come down here to serve either in the dish pit or wherever, on maintenance. And as they would go down here, you'd be, as a pastor, you're kind of concerned about where they're at spiritually.
Yeah.
But as they come down and get on staff and serve, it absolutely transformed them. We've had kids that have just gone from night to day because of their time at SABC. It is one of the greatest things SABC does, and does very, very well.
Very
What
true.
keeps me coming.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. They've had an amazing success rate. A couple of failures, but for the most part, they've been incredibly successful. Heather, you know, serving your first year, what stands out to you in your first year, you know, of being a board member? You know, you get a much deeper look at SABC, and yeah.
I think the things that have stood out have just been the board's just heart for the camp, as well as we get to see kind of on the staff level all the kind of ins and outs of what's going on. And so I think it's kind of cool to see just the passion that the staff have for the camp and how they lead so well. And as a board, it really makes our job really easy because we can trust them with what's going on, and we kind of just make some of the bigger decisions and don't have to worry about the day-to-day details, but just see their heart for what God has placed on their hearts to serve and to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's take a minute and pretend it's just you guys and me here, and let's talk about my sister's job review. I have, thank you. In case you guys are unsure that was a joke,
It's an unsafe solution.
I already get all her reports emailed to me. It's all good. I don't need them. Thank you guys so much for serving. If somebody here honestly was looking at getting on board and helping serve and being a board member, what advice would you guys give to them?
Take the chance. Do it. It'll be the best board service you ever have.
That's awesome.
And we also need more women, so if you ladies out there would like to join us, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
you can talk to me. You'll hear about me later as I do some stuff, but you can talk to me or to Ted if you're interested, and we'll be happy to consider that and put it into the mix.
Yeah, just an easy 30-year term, so get involved. Well,
You know what? That 30-year term, Scott, is because I chose it.
yeah,
It is the one board in all of the boards I've been on, including church boards. It is the one board that I am on that brings, it lifts me up every time I come.
Yeah.
It is a spiritual spark. I wouldn't miss it for anything.
that's awesome. And you guys can trust that because he was a pastor, so he can't lie. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you so much. Perfect. If you want to just put your mics back there. That's awesome. All right. So I believe our next here is, you know, after that rave review about board meetings and how much fun they are, we're going to bring up Ted Walcott to come and talk to us about the actual business of camp. I'm going to grab it for you. You got music for coming up on stage. Right, do you want to give us a little dance on your way up? It is. You're perfect. Do you want me to put this? I can hold it for you if you're nervous. Do you want me to leave you alone yet, Ted?
You're a little close.
I'm a close talker.
You're in my personal space.
Okay, I'm going to take my AGM report and I'm going to go over here, but I'll be watching the whole time.
All right. There'll be no ad libs, obviously. I've never seen a microphone I didn't like. The 2022 AGM of SABC is now in order. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda that you picked up on the way in? I can't see diddly squat with these two lights. Melissa, if somebody volunteers, will you? Oh, that works. That works. Will somebody move adoption of the agenda? I got, I think, Dave Coots, but I can't see real clear. And I got somebody way in the back. Tell me who you are. Garth is back there. I knew you were there. I talked to you, Garth. All in favor, say aye. I can hear. I just can't see. The minutes are in your package. When the meeting's done, we get the minutes, draft minutes. We go through them. We check them. The entire board sees them. But we obviously don't have the power to adopt them. Only this meeting has the power to approve the minutes from the last AGM. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from AGM 2021? I got Gunther, and I also have Diane with a second. All in favor, say aye. And that too is carried. If there's any business arising, please let me know. There being none. George, the floor is yours. Heather, take notes.
Yes, I serve as the vice chairman, and so for elections, that is one of the roles that I have to fill. And I don't do it alone. I do it with the input of the whole board, and Ted and I and John. If you are interested in serving as a part of this board, I would encourage it. You will never be on a board that will be more exciting for you. And we do have people who serve year after year after year, and the reason is for exactly what I said. This year we have 4 positions that we are seeking to fill. The chairman, and we are nominating Ted Walcott. For trustee, there's 2 positions, Arnie Reimer and Darcy Johnson. Both have served for a number of years on the board, and their input has been invaluable to the things that we have walked through as a camp. And then one of our directors is Dave Coots, who you know well and has served as well for many years. And you get the same response from all of them when they talk to you about the time on the board. They just wouldn't miss it because of what it does for them in terms of seeing God at work in the world around us. So those are our nominations for these positions: Chairman Ted Walcott, trustees Arnie Reimer, Darcy Johnson, and Director Dave Coots. They come as a nomination for you to vote on. And so I'm bringing it to you, moved and seconded, and would ask if there's any further comment or further nominations. You need to have asked them ahead of time if you do anything like that. Hearing none, I'm asking for a vote for the election of these positions. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Same sign. It is carried. I turn the chair back over to Ted.
Whew. 30 years, that's just the beginning. You're only halfway there. Okay, you have the audited financial statements before you. And I think as you quickly peruse those or took note of the numbers, there's a lot of dollars and cents that flow through our camp books. And I've been very blessed over the years to have people in our accounting firm that have handled this. And I always say to my people at the office that you are a provision of God. And He has been so faithful. And as a board and as treasurer, we take all this stuff pretty seriously, and we want to maintain that confidence with our supporters. And I think as we look back and see what God has accomplished here, I think we do have the confidence of our supporters. And in leading into that, here about, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, the person in my office that was kind of looking after all this stuff, she said that she was going to move on to bigger and better things. And again, you're kind of, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? but God provides. Sam, will you stand up? God brought Sam Gilbert to my office, and we said, Sam, you're going to look after SABC. And I'm telling you, and Heather is a certified professional accountant as well, and you can visit with her. This fund accounting stuff is not that easy. But Sam has done an amazing job. She communicates very well with the people here at the camp, and every penny that flows out of our coffers, Sam is in charge of writing the check, making sure the paperwork's there, blah, 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 blah. And then the auditor comes in and he looks over everything, and we get our auditor's report, which says everything is fine and dandy. And this year we had a CRA audit, which you're always a little bit nervous about. But the only thing they could find, we didn't charge GST on the wood sales, firewood sales. And that didn't amount to too much, so we're not even going to reassess or anything. So that was a kind of a, just you get a sense of well-being when CRA is in and then gone without, because they're always trying to pick on something. Some of you been down that road, eh? Okay, let's look at the statements. Enough of my going on. The auditor's report, you can read through that. The important thing in the second paragraph of the first page, they say, in our opinion, the statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization and the results of its operations and cash flows for the year in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. So you don't want to ever see a qualified opinion, which means they're not that happy with what we're presenting. So if you go to the statement of financial position on the next page, you can see there's, I call them different pots of accounting. There's the general fund, the Thomson Royer, the other endowment funds, the All Aboard Fund, which is donations go into that All Aboard Fund. The Ride for a Reason monies go into that fund, and then we take out of that fund to bring registrations up to the number that we feel is the cost. And some people that register indicate they're going to pay the full cost. Others indicate they're going to pay partly, and others we just can't pay, but we want our kids to come. So that's the money out of All Aboard goes over into the general fund. And then the capital fund, and then the total capital assets there. So in the general fund, which is kind of our normal operations, we finished up the year with some cash and short-term investments. We had some receivables, some inventory, some prepaid expenses, which is primarily insurance and property taxes. And then the big prepaid expense there, the $205,890, we wrote Little Bow Resort a pretty healthy check to cover the capital cost, our share of the capital cost of the water treatment facility over there. And we're amortizing that cost over 25 years, as that is the estimated life of that plant. And then with these funds, you always have a due from and a due to different funds. The capital fund, which is what we built this building out of, the expenses come out of the capital fund. The capital fund actually owes back to the general fund $446,000. So we have total assets in the capital fund, or in the general fund, I'm sorry, of $1,604,435. There's some liabilities there. You can read those. And the assets exceed the liabilities in the general fund by $818,833. Then the endowment funds, you see the short-term investment values there and the earnings or the capital amounts there. We use to pay or issue scholarships to various staff members that are going back to school. And pretty much most of them, we write the check directly to the school. So if they're going to Briarcrest, we send $750 or $1,000 to Briarcrest on account of that student. And that's been we hear so often from those students that just helped me so much. You know, they spend all summer long here, and that's not a bad thing because they come here, they work, most of them get paid, but they have nowhere to really spend their money except a little bit in the tuck shop. So at the end of the summer, they have a little bit of cash from working, and then they get a scholarship besides. So financially, it's a pretty good deal for them. The capital fund, let's just look at that. That's 3 or 4, 5 columns over. We have $800,000 in an account for the capital fund. And then we have the mortgage below as a liability and the amount due back to the operating fund. So that if you took the 800,000, pay out the mortgage, pay the money back to the general fund, we'd be short $135,000 in that fund. The capital assets, and maybe we'll just quickly go to note 5 in your statements. Like if you look at that over the years, and this does not include a whole lot of donated labor and donated time. This is cost of our assets that we have incurred to be in the situation we're in. So there's land, buildings and equipment, Heritage Hall, Travers Lodge, Pioneer Village, and so on. So we have over $15 million that God has provided. It's it's a real God thing, I believe. And we can be so thankful. And every time I come here for a board meeting or whatever, like you just, thank you, Lord. Thank you, dear Jesus, for providing. And then you hear the stories of the staff and the young people that have come and gone on to serve. It's hard to fathom, but I think maybe because we limit what God is capable of. And he, in my mind and opinion, he has his hand on SABC so much. So anyway, I just thought I'd point that out, like, and that's not to revel in the amount or anything, but just be thankful for what God has provided and allowed our peoples and constituency to accomplish through him. Okay, if we look over on the other page, the statement of operations. And, you know, this is another amazing thing. We were 2 years without camp. So if you can just kind of imagine, if you're in your business or whatever, and for 2 years, you're almost shut down. Like, and then to gear up and get going again and get the staff on board and get the kids to come and everything. We had an amazing year. The second column in is what actually happened. In the general fund, you'll see donations raised by staff, 160,509. So when the staff come, they send out letters to acquaintances and people that are kind of following them and supporting them and asking, number one, for prayer on their behalf, and then number two, can you support me? And $160,000 of donations came in with respect to that. Then there's other donations, general donations from you, the supporters. Camp rentals, $503,464. And you can compare what we budgeted for, the budget that we passed last year. Camp registrations, $558,478. We budgeted $560. But then if you go down to the second last line on the revenue side, we transferred $191,000 from all aboard over into general. And that was the amount of funds that we needed to transfer over to top up all our registrations to the top number of, it was 600, right, John? For the camper to come. So if you take the camp registrations plus the all aboard, quite an amazing number to tell you the truth. Tuck income, government summer wage program. We received some money for summer program. Government grants. We still were eligible for some COVID grants from the government, and there's a few other smaller grants that we're able to access. So our total revenues in the general fund amounted to $2,160,730. Then the expenses are there. I don't know that I need to elaborate too much, other than if you look at the food, it indicates we're over budget. But when we budget the 208,400, we just take the total rentals, registrations, flex program, anything involving food, and we take a 23% factor on that, and that comes to 208,400. So if you take the 23% of the actual registrations and rentals, it would come to, I think it was about 282,000. I think we're actually under or right on budget as far as food, which is a real pat on the back to Dave and his staff, in that you all know when you go to the grocery store, it's costing a bit more. So to come in right on budget is admirable. The other expenses are there. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. So our total expenses were $1,900,000. So praise the Lord. Revenues over expenses by just about $260,000 for fiscal September 2022. The other funds, the numbers are there for you, the donations into the funds or the interest earned, and then the expenses in the Thomson Royer. We paid out $15,500. That's at the bottom, third bottom line there, third column in. We paid out $15,500 in scholarships, $3,000 on another scholarship, and out of the all aboard $191,715. So overall, total donations, registrations, rentals, donations into the capital fund, almost $3 million last year. Total expenses, 2.5, surplus of $380,000. Now from that, we have to spend to build and so forth and so on, but that's the bottom line on things. Changes in our fund balances, you can go over to the next page, and then that just gives you a summary of the dollars in each particular fund. And the fund balances come to $13,121,754. Um, So go to the statement of cash flows, and this is getting a little technical, but I just wanted to kind of explain the capital fund a bit. The statement of cash flows, and we're 6 columns over. In the capital fund, we received $565,000 of donations. We rent the Champion House, so we received $12,600 of cash from that. We received $22,000 in interest. And we have some investments in that capital fund. Remember, there's $800,000 there. And some of those investments are interest sensitive, very interest sensitive, because that's all we're trying to do is earn a little bit of interest on those investments. But as the interest rate goes up, the value of that investment, if you were to sell it, goes down somewhat. So we had a decrease in value of $30,000 in the capital fund. Now, depending on your timeline, but when interest peak and then start coming down, then the value of those investments will come back up. But we're not buying and selling, trading. We just put money in to earn 4, 5, 6, 7% interest, whatever is available. So it's not a trading function there. So then in that capital fund, we spent $149,000 on purchase of capital assets. And we transferred between funds. So from the general fund and the all aboard fund, there's transfers between those funds of $241,000. We paid down the mortgage by $800,000 during the year. So in that capital fund, we actually decreased our cash balance by $190,000. We started with $990,000 and we end up with $800,018, which was on your balance sheet in the capital fund. So there's a bunch of notes there just explaining a few things. I always like the very, very first note. And when the auditor comes, he kind of wonders about all this stuff, but it's pretty plain as to what it says, I think. Yeah, I think that, does anybody have any questions? You got a question?
There being none, Doug's presentation constitutes a motion to adopt the audited financial statements. Is there a second for Doug's motion? I think it's Marv Warkentine, I can see. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye. All opposed? That's carried.
And for those of you who are afraid to stand up and ask a question, just get me in a corner afterwards and I'll try to get the answer for you.
Please do. I saw you took over for me as the close talker there, Ted. Are you all done?
So you tell me otherwise.
All right. No, I wasn't asking. I was actually telling you. You're all done, Ted. You can leave. That's great. I think next on the agenda is me. So we get to we have a top 10 list. So this, I know I'm just bringing it back down after all the fun of that financial stuff. So bear with me. All right. So this is my top 10 this year is the top 10 reasons that SABC is better than a trip to Europe.
But
And
who's
Heather,
been to Europe, though?
What's that?
Who's been to Europe?
I know. Tanya thought this was a shot at her because she takes off to Europe every other year, but it wasn't.
You sure?
All right. Top 10 reasons SABC is better than a trip to Europe. Number 10, it's cheaper. Very quiet glass. Top 10 reasons that SABC is better than a trip to Europe. Number 9, cabins are bigger than most hotel rooms in Europe.
Oh, too soon. That was a kid in the rock.
Oh.
He broke that window.
All right.
Don't worry about it.
Top 10 reasons. Number 8, you don't need a passport. Has anybody stood in a passport line? Terrible, terrible. Number 7, the lake smells better than the canals of Venice. Not much, a little bit. Oh.
I tried, man. Okay?
All right.
Don't give me that look.
Top 10 reasons that SABC is better than a trip to Europe. Number 6, when getting a coffee from the Old Lodge Coffee Co., no need to worry about the exchange rate. Didn't even make it. I moved towards it and everything. All right. Top 10 reasons that SABC is better than a trip to Europe. Number 5, John Gartley. Have I hit the window once yet? Anybody? Has I gotten close? All right. Top 10 reasons that SABC is better than a trip to Europe. Number 4, when approached by a person with a guitar at SABC, they don't expect you to throw €5 in their guitar case. She might, actually. She might.
Hey, now. That's rude.
I am apparently the glass at this point. All right. Top 10 reasons SABC is better than a trip to Europe. Number 3, Europeans care more about soccer than Coke runners.
That is very true.
It's a glass coffee table. Number 10. Oh, no. Number 2. Number 2. If you find your first summer romance in Europe, you may never see them again. But at SABC,
It is a different story.
it's a different story. You did it. What a team we are.
Look
All
at
right.
us go. I'm so proud.
And the number 1 reason that SABC is better than a trip to Europe is SABC is your home away from home. You belong here and stories live here. Did I get all the catchphrases, Tanya? All right, a round of applause. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, if they land on the desk, I do them again. Number 10. No. All right. I think next we're going to have John come on up here. A round of applause for John. John, why don't you grab a microphone there? You think between you and Heather, who's more nervous about coming up here?
This is not my comfortable space.
No? I asked the team here to tell me some, what can I joke about with John as he comes up here? And they just said, he's old. That's it. That was the full thing. I know we're going to get a bit of stuff from you later, so I'm not going to do a ton, but I was looking at this while those guys went on and on about stuff that was going on. And it says here that SABC is a youth-focused Christian camp whose purpose is to challenge, encourage, and inspire campers spiritually and physically to help equip them for life and to develop Christian leaders in young adults. And I just think I know that you've been so dedicated to that for so many years, and we've seen the fruits of that labor. And so thank you for that. To save you from talking, because I don't know why I let you grab the microphone at all. Do you mind if I read you something? I was talking to, like I said, I was joking around with all these Light Force people, and it was literally 30 years ago that we were all here, and you helped lead us that summer and taught us different things. And I was just texting them saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing. Anything you guys want to say? And there was a couple of things that they sent back that I thought you might want to hear. So Light Force was an experience that gave an opportunity to a kid like me. This is not about me, by the way, because it says super shy and somebody who didn't work out my faith enough to be able to explain it to anyone else. A chance to be a leader. That experience helped set me up for so many things in my life, including becoming a camp director myself for many years, and now a teacher who doesn't think twice about standing up in front of 30 to 300 kids at any time and talk. Even today in class, I had an opportunity to share about my dad and dying, and on Friday, one of my students had died, and we were talking about grief. Lots of people can talk about easy things, but it takes a little more to talk about the hard things and lead others in that. Light Force definitely set me on that path. And another one. But here, also what I wanted to say about Light Force. Although I didn't ever serve again at SABC, I spent at least 1 week every summer for the next 23 years serving at a camp in some way, shape, or form in a leadership capacity, as a counselor, or director, or cook, and continued in life to take a leadership role in churches and schools, etc. I'm not saying it was all because of the leadership experience I got on Light Force, but looking back, that was the first step I took in pursuing something leadership-minded, and it really was such a positive experience. Thanks for all you did. One small year in a very long career, John. Yeah. Do you want to bring up some of your other leaders, or do you want to say anything?
Well, I mean, this is what kind of keeps me going here.
Yeah.
This is why I'm here. You know, I mean, it's exciting to go to board meetings.
Excited. That's how it works. I say something, she lets them know it's a joke.
But for me, it's like I feel like I'm actually doing something that's making a difference, and we are doing something here that's making a difference. So I appreciate that. And you know what? You know, you got me up here, and you got me just sitting here listening to this. I mean, this is our team.
Yeah.
Like this is an incredible staff team that we have here, and I think, you know, as we were going through the summer, as we were preparing for the fall, I was probably the most confident. I was the most, I don't know what the right word is, but just I was confident going into the fall because we had everybody that we needed to be able to handle the different things that were coming. And I'm so proud of our staff. And so anyways, are we going to show a video, or is it?
Yeah, show
Because
a video. I think we do have a video. Is that right, guys? All right, we're going to show a
I'd
video.
like
and then
everybody
we'll...
to see who our staff are.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, why don't we have some of the staff come on up here? We'll get John Keller, Lori, Tanya. Why don't you guys come join us? John, down to the end with you over there. Hey, if you guys don't want to come up, I have treats. Come on. John, do you need one over there? Tanya, do you need anything? Yeah, don't worry about it. I do most of the talking up here anyways. Don't worry about it. Welcome here.
Thanks.
That was your opportunity. Whew. Well, this is going to go easy, I can tell. Dragging it down. Okay, so you guys, why don't you say who you are, starting over here?
I'm Lori. I'm the guest services manager.
I'm Tanya, officially Scott's sister, as well as the program manager.
And I'm John Keller, and I am the properties manager.
John, before we get started, anything you want to say about your dad? Father-in-law?
Well, you know, I couldn't really blame him for taking shots when he had a mic. I can't blame him because I started right from the start telling him things like, hey, George, what's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Outlaws are wanted. I know. It's like a month after I was married to his daughter.
I want you to know I'm a little upset. So please, I'm the one with the jokes up here. Yeah. Lori, why don't you tell us about how rentals have gone this year? Tell us everything. You have rentals here this weekend.
We do, because the building is big now. So we had a slow start, like post-COVID, it was a slow start, but it's been better than expected. Numbers tell you that, and people tell you that. So normal, I don't know what normal is anymore, but this year we had over 4,600 guests.
You can use me as a template for normal. If you're looking for like sort of a baseline to work off of.
No.
I feel like 5,000 to 6,000 guests would be anticipated in the year ahead, maybe.
That's amazing.
That's my guess. Yeah.
So how does the new building affect that?
It's awesome because we don't have to like feel like we're crammed in anywhere. So there's space for everything. There's space for all the people. There's space to like rotate groups through so that you don't feel like you have to clean every inch every time. Yeah. So I feel like maybe cabins will get used a little less because people all want to be inside this building.
Yeah. Does this new building inspire you to some new ideas, different opportunities? No, never mind. I'm just, let's start here, you know? That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's so good. John, maintenance can be a pretty thankless job. That was it. That was just,
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
yeah, just wanted to remind you. Don't be surprised this year. What major projects do you got going on?
Projects that we did this year or projects we have coming up?
Well, give us both. Give us some of the highlights of this last year and kind of let people know what's coming up. What are we going to see?
Well, we've done quite a bit of landscaping. We've been kind of slow finishing the building around the building just because it happened during, shutdown time. We were pretty slow and closed down, and we were actually off the
we
site
don't say
for a
the word
while.
COVID anymore.
So no,
yeah,
I don't even say that word.
Yeah, never again.
So we've been doing a lot of landscaping, finishing up around that new cabin circle as well. We've been pouring some concrete. We've actually been kept pretty busy with a lot of maintenance things, unforeseeable kind of stuff. We actually took we didn't do the things that we didn't have to do while there was a little less money to go around, and we're playing catch up a little bit from that. And,
I know you get a lot of volunteers, and some of them I'm sure are challenging. Can you tell any stories about my dad coming to help you out?
For about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Right after a ladder hit him in the head.
Oh, yes, that is correct.
That was one last couple of years here.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord. He still comes back.
And so what's coming up in the future then?
So this year we're going to be putting some time and money into our cabins, replacing some doors, some floors. We've got a blank being drawn. Yep, we got a dock that's coming up.
That's awesome.
So we've been actually granted some money to extend our dock so it will work better at low water levels. So we're waiting on some approvals from the government. Yeah, that's a pretty big project. That's going to extend our dock another 100 feet into the water. So we're pretty excited about that.
Does that touch the other shore or?
Yeah, not quite, but it will allow us to run even at the extreme lowest water we've ever seen. Our water program will operate.
That was last year, right?
Yep, true.
Now, speaking of my dad getting hit in the head with a ladder, you did some medical training this year.
Oh, yes, I did. Right after that happened, actually. Yeah.
My father's been an inspiration for Mitty.
Yes. Yep. Myself and my wife have gone and taken 80 hours worth of medical training that has landed us with a wilderness first responder certificate. Yep.
And other things.
And we did that because we were starting to, yep, I drew a blank. We did that because we were building our out trip program. So as we take out trips into the back country, and we're kind of developing that for the Flex program right now, we're required because of the distance from medical care to staff our own medical care. And it's actually been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to learn. And while we've spent the resources on that, we've actually shifted the site under that same scope of practice as well. So it's been fun learning.
That's cool. So new things coming all over the place. Tanya, I appreciate
Hi,
you.
Scott.
I appreciate you putting yourself in the middle as the middle child over there.
I tried not to. I was going to sit there, and then John sat there, and
Just
Lori
to,
sat there, and here
just
I
to
am.
treat you as the middle child, I was just
Bring
going to
it
skip
on.
over you altogether.
I
But-
expected it. I was surprised. Yeah. Hey, over there.
So you.
This will be fun.
As you know, what do they call you here? The program manager? Is that what they call you?
Not usually.
Okay.
Just Tanya.
So when
Usually
summer,
it's, hey, Tanya, I have a question.
hey Tanya. So when summer ends, what begins for you?
A realignment of my sleeping habits. I start there. That usually happens in October by the time I get to that. Yeah, we kind of start over. Like we start again in prepping for the next year, as we often in normal years get ready to open staff applications and camp registration in January or December. The last couple of years, this last year, it happened after the new year. And so, but yeah, so that's a lot of that, a lot of staff connections, kind of staying in touch with that, retreats, and just sort of a celebration and evaluation of what has happened, and leaning into some of the bigger picture, which the three of us with John get to do. There's the things that are on a job description that we all do.
You guys have job descriptions?
They're funny. And then there's the other stuff that we do as a lead team, big camp picture. And so leaning into a lot of those things. But a lot of where my heart is yeah, connecting with the staff year round and kind of just continuing to lean into their lives. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you know, you guys are the leaders here at camp, but you guys are developing leaders, and you guys all do it in very different ways. Could you guys, all three of you guys, sort of speak into like how you guys have seen leadership grow throughout this year, and kind of like how you guys go about that in your own unique way?
John, what does leadership development look like for you? That was the question.
Oh, was it? Boy,
As the youngest child,
My
she'll
hearing's
be
not
speaking
great.
for me as well.
I also am a full-time translator for most of the people around here.
we love our morning devos. So it's a huge part of what we do on our maintenance team. We actually bring them all in very first time they get here. We sit them down and we say, these are all the things we're going to do. We're going to do all these things, and it's going to be hard, and that's not a bad thing. And we talk about all that, and then we say, but the most important thing we're going to do is we're going to meet in the morning, and we're going to take a full hour, and you're going to get up early, and we're going to study the Word together. And that has been such just a rich time, and it's a huge portion of those kids would say at the end, what was your most favorite part? And it's for, I would say, over half of them at least, it's those morning devos times. And we have a lot of fun too. You know, we shoot some shotguns and we go wakeboarding, but they're only allowed to come and do that stuff if they show up for morning devos. So that's how we run our times. And the cool thing is, we had one of our grounds crew leaders this year was actually a young man who has come right from just a snotty little whippersnapper and come all the way up through that maintenance program and is now leading it. And to watch him lead and grow those 14-year-olds in the way that he was led and grown is pretty special to watch. So it's very, very rewarding.
Yeah. Snot-nosed kids growing up. It's good. We're not allowed to have snot-nosed kids anymore during this time. They have to go home if they're snot-nosed. Yeah. Lori, how about you?
Well, I think I would be remiss not to talk about my own kids. So I have three. My oldest is 25. My youngest is 16. So all three of them have had a very different camp experience. My oldest was like from 5 years old all the way up. He came to camp. He worked when he was old enough. He did the leadership development program, the whole 9 yards. The other two, a little different story. They didn't like camp all that much when they were little.
I'm glad you clarified that when they were little. Like,
yeah.
For
Julia, she became more involved when I started working here, and then decided it was an okay place to be. So this last summer, she actually hadn't been here and came back on the leadership team, and she ran the Fort Kitchen. And then my youngest, who is probably it's a tie how quiet both those two are, Julia and Landon. but Landon did Teleos this year. So he, he missed the opportunity to be on support staff because of the word we're not saying. And yeah, so his first staff experience was the leadership program. And I think he floored quite a few of us on his very last day. We were down at the beach and Micah was getting baptized, and he took the mic and he said, hands down, the most transformative month of his life.
That's awesome. Now, just before Tanya speaks, because I like to keep her held back as much as possible.
You don't get the mic.
Yeah. Now, are you part of the HR process? You do part of the hiring and firing as well? There's a bone to pick. No, I'm just kidding.
Hiring.
You do the hire. Yeah, you're part of the HR hiring. How does that sort of
Yes.
play out in the leadership? Like, how do you guys speak into kids' lives that way?
Well, we hired 246 people this last season.
Amazing.
So that's everything from 17-week staff all the way to adults that volunteer for a week at a time. I really like asking the question when we're interviewing about why they want to be at camp, and 9 times out of 10 they say this is home. So.
All right, Tone, you get to talk. I mean, leadership is a huge passion for you.
True.
And training young leaders. Go ahead. You don't really need any questions.
It truly is. It is, it is truly the privilege to have that be kind of under my umbrella of why I'm here, and getting to be involved in the scope of those students and young adults that we hire. And so we seek to create a layered discipleship community here where staff have leaders like John and Lori and John that are kind of like, I would say, top tier leaders in their lives, to speak into them and to train them up so that they can continue to offer discipleship and leadership development and challenge, and to walk through the weeks that are full of celebration and laughter and just the best moments, as well as those ones that find you in a corner just weeping because of the ache and the heartache in the world. And so there's so many stories to tell. I watched the staff video again yesterday. Most of it is really only for the staff because it doesn't make sense to the rest of the world. But they talk about the story of what it is to be home and to encounter Jesus here in a way that makes them go from here to walk with the Lord in a deeper way, and to find their way in the world because of who Jesus is in their life. So there's a million stories from those 247 lives that have been here. One young lady who came on our program team this year, she's actually a young married. Her and her husband believed in what camp had given them in their lives, that they arranged for their life to adjust for 12 weeks, for her to be here every day during the week and then be home on the weekends, to be a part of the program coordinator team, and to watch. And she'd been a cabin leader previously. Her name was Emma. And to watch the way that she poured into these 14-year-olds, these kids who she had once been, and poured into them, and to share what it is to lead out of your depth, because you have to lean on the Lord, and then to get to have the privilege of baptizing somebody at the end of the summer as well. Just that, again, that full circle that we're talking about happens here, that you mentioned with John as well. Like, it's just, it happens, but it doesn't just happen. It's because of the intention of the heart of the people who are here, to continue to just invite people to Jesus while we walk with Jesus. And so that's what we do.
Mr. Gartley, is there anything you'd like to hear from your leaders up here while they're here?
I just love it that these people can hear these people, because I hear them every week, and I love their hearts. And for me to tell you what they say isn't the same as them telling. So that's.
Before we let you guys off the stage, is there anything specifically about, say, the leadership programs? You guys have different kinds of leadership programs here. Why don't you guys lay out a little bit of those different things, those opportunities for people that they may know or that are here to get involved?
Yeah, I'll jump in. John already mentioned the Flex program is probably one of the, so much of SABC, we are a Christian, youth-focused Christian camp, and the summer is so pivotal to everything that we are. Everything that we do for 12 months is to have the opportunity to share Jesus at camp. But as you guys all know, and we all know, our faith doesn't live in one season. And so our heart is also to build into those lives throughout the year, and we can do that individually. We can do that through retreats and having some of our young leaders here and helping out in different ways. And to do that one more step is we've begun the Flex program, which you guys have heard about over the last few years. And it's the opportunity for young adults to come and spend a year, a school year type calendar, living together in community and walking through the Bible and going on out trips where they're challenged beyond, again, being outside of your own depth of where you're comfortable, and having God meet you there and be a part of what is it to become an adult. We're still trying to figure that out here on the couch. So we might as well help somebody along the way figure it out. So it has those different components of life here at camp, serving in and amongst us. Helping us do all the things we need to do in this amazing place, spending time in the Word, in community, being challenged in their own personal walk as an adult. What is it to grow up and to allow Jesus to impact that? And then the out trips and the adventure that brings that, yeah. So, and we have Charlie and Luke who are at the helm of that. Charlie also has done some of the medical. And so I would say that even beyond hiring some of those, all of our seasonal staff, getting the opportunity to lead into the leadership development of our staff here that we get to work with. So there's layers and layers and layers of it. And so that's one of them that I would speak to is the Flex program. We had 4 last year, 5, and then 2 this year. And yeah, so we're excited to see where that can go and where God will take it. Yeah, and that's the year-round piece that leans in and out of the summer. Any comments, John?
Yeah, I think about Noah Bishop. He's come through camp before. He's come and served on the properties team. He actually took his whole summer off of making money. And came as an adult volunteer. We paid him absolutely nothing, and he led different young guys from our properties team. He would pull 1 or 2 off, and they roofed our buildings. How many cabins did we do? 4 cabins, and the pump house up there, and the garden shed, and quite a few roofs got done. And watching him grow, he's come through the program. He's had guys building into him, but he roofs at a pace that's designed to make money. And so he wanted to come in and grab these kids and just go, all right, here's how you go, and 100 mile an hour. And we talked a lot about, shifting those gifts God has given you and abilities to tools. They're not the goal, they're the tool that you use to build into others, and to watch him grow in that, and then in turn grow those kids. And it was just another one of those times where you see that development of leadership just paying back and paying back and paying back. So very special to see.
It's awesome. Lori? Yeah, please do.
So we already spoke to Teleos, but my daughter was also part of the Flex program the first year. So there were university students that the universities were closed, so they lived at the fort, and that was the first year of the Flex program. It's evolved even still yet. Her first couple of years of university were rough. Like she's a U of C student, she's graduated now. She wasn't outgoing, so she wasn't at the den drinking beer or anything like that. And she was pretty lonely. And the Flex year changed her. She, living in that community that year was pivotal for her. She is more outgoing, more confident. She just grew up a lot in that peer group, in that time frame. And it's not an accident, you guys. God wants this for here, and he speaks into the programs and into the people who are leading the programs, and he makes them amazing.
That's awesome. We're going to keep Tanya here and let the rest of you go, but I am going to give you one little piece of encouragement. I just had I didn't, but our church's youth group just came up here for a youth retreat. And when they came back, they just raved about it. They raved about the facility. They raved about how easy it was to come and how things were organized so well. And I know that even the young women who are leading that youth group, who are these female pastors, were so encouraged by you guys and just came back full of life and just praise of SABC. So thank you guys for all you guys do here. All right, if you want a high chew, you can have a high chew on your way out. Oh my goodness. All right. Okay. So close. Over here. Oh no. I'm throwing them into the jar, so
I threw high chews all summer.
yeah. And both of my throws were better than yours?
Yes.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
good. Quick
Yeah.
story about my best friend, Steve Scheifele, who also came to camp
Oh,
here.
could we?
When he
Please?
was a brand new
Yeah.
pastor,
Mm.
he decided a great opportunity would be like to have a football and stand at the front of his congregation. And then if they wanted to ask a question, he would throw the football to them. And some lovely elderly lady got up to go to the bathroom. And he thought she wanted a question and she was not paying attention. It was kind of like Dad being hit with the ladder.
Yeah, no, that's good.
He was also one of John's failures here at camp, Steve.
Yeah.
Scheifele.
Yeah, well, last year we did family camp and we threw the footballs when we sang the big house,
That's right.
but we made sure they were soft and
Yes.
small, but it was still a surprise.
It
So
is
there was a
still a
lot of
surprise.
bing, but there was no injuries.
All
that
right,
I'm
Tanya,
aware of. Go.
tell us a little bit about camp this summer. How was it different? How was it? What was good about it? What was tough about it?
Enough about it. Well, the biggest question that we always got was like, wasn't it so nice to have normal camp again, back to normal? And
Yeah.
you being the marker,
Yes.
you know,
It was about normal then.
it was
wasn't
about normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. We actually, as we were about 3 weeks into summer, God laid upon my heart the idea that this was our resurrection summer. So we'd been through these last few years of feeling like we had sort of been buried. God did much, that is to be clear, and God has sustained us and done all those things. And as a summer camp, it felt like it was like, can we rise again from it? I'm seeking not to be untheological or sacrilegious. You okay over there? Okay, good.
Could you hit the drums or something? That was a joke. There you go.
But this resurrection summer, in the fact that Satan thought he'd won, and we knew that he hadn't.
Yeah.
And so when we had kids on site this last year, even though nothing was normal, we could sense that we were walking in God's power all of the time, that there was new life and new light happening and coming. And it really was this sort of idea that we were walking in a resurrection. Things weren't easy for those disciples when Jesus came back. Things got harder in a new way. And we experienced a lot of that. But there was the hope and the promise that we understood in a new way, I think. So some of the new that we did this year is we did what we call cabin circle camps. And so SABC's always been a camp with a small camp heart where every kid would be known and would have the opportunity to hear about Jesus. And that has never changed. And so we have grown. We have a massive building and we have 3 different cabin circles and the forts, we have 4. Kids encounter, which is Jesus and adventure and new relationships and leadership development, has not changed. And so we took that in the direction of cabin circle camps. So each of our cabin circles, from lakeside to lodgeside to hillside to the fort, each housed their own little camp. And so we had cabin circle directors, and so we had a whole other layer of leadership as well. And so campers experienced that known, that belonging that they experience here at SABC, that home, as well as the big adventure of what SABC offers.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of like what camp looked like programmatically. All the adventures and the activities, the waterfront, all of those things happened with excellence, with intention, with a slew of hard work and an amazing team. But again, it wasn't normal. And so we are looking forward to intentionally moving forward with what has occurred, but wanting to kind of take it forward. So yeah.
You guys are amazing. I mean, one of the things I really give you guys such great credit for, certainly the camp has gotten bigger and better, but you guys continue to get bigger and better in the areas that matter. You guys really focus in and keep, these type of mission statements in mind and go, how do we continue to make this personal for kids? Not just, it's always fun, right? But how do we make it personal for kids? And I think that's huge. You get to see God move at camp because you're here all the time. You get to see God move in kids' lives. You get to see God move in staff's lives. How has God moved in your life this summer?
Well, that's a twist on the question
Yeah,
that I
I
gave
don't
you to
listen
ask.
to your. See, here's your advice. Here's what I say.
I see. There's different papers on your
Yeah.
desk. Yeah. God.
Okay, but while you prepare for that,
Mhm.
we haven't really had a chance to talk about this, but have you seen a change in Dad since the ladder incident?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that either.
Yeah, maybe later.
No, I didn't
It's
like that
okay.
day at all. That's a whole other story.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, okay, stop. Filter, you are so blessed. You all just watched my filter turn on. Look at that. Yeah, perfect. I love it.
I got here today and turned my filter off. So.
No, grateful for God's blessing in so many ways. What it got in my life is, honestly, comes from the stories that I get to walk alongside. And so I am grateful for the way that God, for moments when I found myself running across the road to just cry by myself, because kids are hurting and staff are hurting. And this is a good party. Hey, guys. They carry a lot. And having come through the last few years, a lot of those things came to the surface and they brought them to camp. And they invited our staff to walk with them, and our staff invited their leaders and their peers to walk with them. And we all desperately invited Jesus to walk with us in the lives of these kids who shared secrets and walked out celebrations and met Jesus in ways that we had planned for, in ways that we hadn't. And so from moments where we were doing Camp for You 2 years ago and having new families drive on site, and we're like, hey, welcome here. And they're just like, we've never been here before. We just saw some crazy people on YouTube, and now we're here because our kids wanted it for real.
Yeah.
Kids trying to break Camp for You records at the fort because they were from Camp for You kids. And so we knew that in those moments, those were loaves and fishes moments, and we're seeing that in a resurrection way. And so just watching God even just walk us through stories of his word in ways that we have been able to experience them in reality. Our staff was like so new. Between either having never been here to camp before, brand new to roles. We hired 45 cabin leaders. 5 or 6 had cabin led before. Yeah. Not a joke.
Not a joke.
But what that offered us was an opportunity to be, okay, we stand on the foundation and the faithfulness of this place and what God has done here for years and years and years. And to be like, okay, we're going to stand on that and intentionally reteach common knowledge. Intentionally say, this is where we want to go. Come with us. And where we believe that God is taking us. And so our leadership team that came in the spring, again, all new to those roles. I think 4 have been in their role before, but they'd done it in family camp. And so not really the same role. And so just the opportunity to see staff trust us again to do something new. Yeah, it was amazing. We ended up with baptisms. Every few weeks, we were like, okay, I think we got it covered. And then somebody would come the next day and be like, so God told me to do it last week, but I was ignoring him and I want to get baptized. And so like it was just constant the way God worked through the ache and the pain that was brought to camp this year. And the hard things that were part of it, and just shone his light and his power through so much. So anyways, that is, I could go on and on and on.
You could go on and on. I've seen it.
I'm like Ted,
Yeah.
right, Ted?
Ted, do you have anything you want to say? Come on, we got an extra microphone up here, Ted.
Yeah.
No worry, I got it all right here in the notes. Yeah.
John said you were talking about flex.
Yeah. So, okay.
Anyways.
Before we bring up some of
Yes.
your other team members,
Yeah.
is there anything you want to make sure they know about this last summer? Anything that they you want to make sure they hear?
We finished the summer talking about stacking stones. And the Israelites, when they saw God move and went through something hard and saw his power, they would make note and stack stones. And we did that at the end of summer. We talked about that as a staff and just being like, we wanted to mark that God had continued and again been faithful. And so that's all. I would just want you guys to join us in stacking stones as we mark and as we look at the financials and we do the business and we hear the stories. God is so good. He's so faithful. I had one quick story to finish before we hear from our staff. We invite some staff up. There was a cabin leader. We were playing schmuck, which is like the hide and seek game, in which cabin leaders then get like schmucked in the face with shaving cream, and then they jump in the lake, and everybody loves it.
Sure, everybody loves getting hit in the
everybody
face
loves
with shaving
that,
cream
right?
and
We're
get
going to
thrown
play
in the
that at the
lake.
end before lunch. Enjoy
Yeah.
that. So he had
So
been.
not everything from camp is gone. Are you guys going to bring back toilet bowls that you bob into and stuff?
No, probably not.
Thank you.
No. So he'd been hiding for 30 to 40 minutes because his goal was not to be found. He was in a ghillie suit, which is basically like head to toe, like sauna. He was hiding in the grass, so mosquitoes. It was later in the summer, so no ticks.
Yeah.
And he didn't get caught, but then of course he went and found a camper that hadn't found anybody and got schmucked, and he came up out of the lake and he ran until he got caught. Then he came up out of the lake after rinsing off, and he just came right over to me, and I thought I was going in the lake, honestly. So I was a little afraid. But he just said, he looked me in the eye and he said, Tanya, thank you for letting me come here. He was cabin leading for 10 weeks. He'd never cabin led before. Thanks for letting me do this, and thanks for helping me. And I was like, thank you for coming to camp. Like, it was just so profound. I was like, you are doing one of the hardest jobs on the planet, like 24 hours of working with kids who, yeah, it was just amazing. And he just looked at me in the eye and said, thank you for letting me come here. And I was like, okay, please come back.
Very big of you to let the staff come, Tanya.
I know. Thank you. You're welcome. I should have just said you're welcome. But I was just like, thank you.
You
And
plan
please
on
don't throw me
being
in the lake.
generous with
Yeah,
staff next year as well?
Yeah, I
All
plan
right,
to
well,
be
let's
very-
get some of your staff up
Awesome.
here. Jordan.
All right, we're going to invite Jordan up here. And
Aaron and Nathan, I think it is.
Nathan and Aaron, yeah, are
Perfect.
going to come on up.
Why don't we give a
Good.
round of applause?
Yeah,
Tanya, you're down to the end.
I'm down.
Yeah. While these guys come up, I'll tell a little story about this summer. We had I had some kids come here this summer as well, and they brought along some of their friends. And my middle child, Martin, had brought a couple of boys with him to the volleyball camp that they ran out of here. And when we picked them up at the end, the other two boys are basically unchurched, had never been to church in any way, shape, or form, never been to camp. And they came out of camp that week wired for sound, and literally one of the young boys gave me a big hug, and he was like, and this is a 13, 14-year-old boys, and he just said, this has been the best week of my life ever. He still, however many months later, still talks about camp and his experience here. So thanks, you guys. All right, Jordan.
All right. So I'm the games guy, so I get to come play game. Because if you look at Aaron and Nathan, they look a little tense over there. So we're gonna loosen them up a little bit. Am I taking too long? All right, they're gonna loosen them up a little bit, and then they're gonna share about camp. So we're gonna play a game. It's a finish the lyrics. I didn't even tell you guys this was gonna happen either, did I? Oh yeah. So how the game's gonna work? There's gonna be a sound bit from a song that's gonna play, and then it's gonna pause, and then you guys are gonna finish the lyric. It's that easy, all right? Whoever gets it first answers, all right? So the first song, there's
A little tip, they're all Taylor Swift. So just kidding.
obviously. All right, so Ryan, let's go with the first lyric. Here we go.
That you have saved me.
Yeah.
You get a high chew.
Hey, that was good. That was good. From Happy Day. All right, Ryan. It was have say. All right. That was good. All right. That was the long intro, you know. Get you warmed up. All right. Song number 2.
Because your love has conquered the grave.
Oh, it's so close.
No.
Ready. Because my Lord has conquered the grave. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's play it, right?
All right, you get one of these. You can choose.
All right, we got one more. One more. It's a campfire.
One of you is
All right.
going to college.
All right, you're gonna have to listen real close, and there might be some action. Right.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Your thumb's got to be out, and then what's next?
Elbows in.
Elbows in. You might have to stand for this part. Aaron, you're doing it too. It's a combine. Okay, thumbs out, elbows in.
Knees together.
Or knees bent.
Knees bent. Toes
Together. Butt out. Head back. Tongue out. And then the tootsie wootsie. All right. Good job, guys. Thanks for playing my game. They are warm and ready now.
I know you guys normally have to do that sort of thing in front of kids, which is less embarrassing. You guys should do all your staff photos that way. Thumbs out, elbows in, knees together. No, knees bent. Welcome here. Which one of you is Aaron and which one is Nathan?
I'm Nathan. That's
I'm
Aaron.
I have to take your word for it. You have no name tags or anything. How'd you guys get in here with no name tags?
The back door.
There you go. The staff entrance.
Yeah, it's secret.
Yes, there you go. So tell me a little bit about yourself. You guys were here this summer. What were you?
I can go first. So I'm Nathan. I live in Calgary, and this year I was cabin leading for 6 weeks, so that was a pretty exciting time.
I live in Lethbridge. I was cabin leading for 8 weeks. 8 weeks.
It's all a blur. It's all a blur.
It was a pretty blurry summer.
There's not a lot of sleep that happens. Yeah, but if it's still blurry now, you should get your eyes checked. I'm serious. It's not safe. There's a lot of snow out there. All right. So tell me a little bit about what I'm supposed to be asking you here, because I can't read my own writing. Oh yeah, that'll help. So first time cabin leading, but was this your first time at camp? Had you worked here before? Had you been a camper here?
So not first time cabin leading, second time.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, so first time I came was 2018 on support staff. I just knew someone from my church that was working here, and they were like, you should come too. And I was like, okay, program team for 4 weeks. I'd never been to a camp before, at all, no summer camp experience. But I was like, okay, I'll come. And that was, it was a time that really helped me in my faith and stuff. And so then when it was December that year, I was like, well, next year I'll be graduating, so I can come back as a cabin leader. So I did all of summer 2019 cabin leading. Then 2020 applied. That summer didn't happen. Then 2021, I was doing flex here at camp. So I'd been at camp from like September to April, and it was like April 16th. And I'd been talking to Charlie, and I was like, Charlie, I want to come back to camp. I want to do cabin leading again, whatever. And then she was like, what if you come back and you do like 17 weeks and you stay here like starting 10 days from now? And I was like, let me think about it. And then I like texted my parents, and it was like 2 hours later. It's like, yeah, sure, Charlie, you can hire me. So yeah, and then I was here all of 2021, and I did Camp for You, and then I was resident director, and then yeah, and then went back to school and stuff. And then I was like, I want to come back. Didn't know what I was going to be able to do because me and my family were visiting all our relatives in Brazil this past summer. So I was from like June to middle of July, I wasn't in Canada. But then I was like, you know, when I come back, what's something I can do? And I was like, cabin lead for 6 weeks. I was like, Tanya, will you take me? And no, I was back again. So it's been 4 years of just being
That's
at
awesome.
camp pretty much every summer.
You've been here a lot and you still don't know the songs. So that's
just too much memorization at school.
that's awesome. Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit about your sort of camp experience, how you ended up here?
Well, I don't remember what year it was. I think I was like 13 or something. My mom forced us all to go. my
I
little sister-
know the experience. Yeah.
My little sister, my older brother, and my stepbrother, we all went. I used to be
Do
like,
you want to know why your mom sent you to camp?
yeah.
Just to get you out of the house, buddy.
Probably, yeah. I used to be like the shyest kid like you've ever seen. Like I couldn't like talk to anybody at all. But I don't know, just going there and like I guess coming out of my shell a little bit as a teenager, and like the cabin leaders just loving on me, how we're trained to do. It was just like life-changing. So I remembered that for like a while. Then I forgot about it. And then
So when did you come back? You were a camper as a kid, and then when did you come back?
just earlier this year, I was just at church, and Charlie just like briefly walked up to my friend group because they're like, "We need male cabin leaders." So she just walked up and just asked, and then I was like, "I don't want to go to camp. That sounds hard."
Yeah.
I prayed a lot, and then like everyone, like all my friends were telling me to go, and God was telling me to go like audibly. I was like, okay, I better go to camp then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You did not want to be in the belly of a whale. You decided to go to camp.
Yeah. But yeah, it was probably like the most spiritual growth I've ever felt, like ever. Probably the best summer of my life. So I'm really happy I went here.
It's one of those things, right? You come for the kids because you're like, okay, they need cat. I'm going to go do that thing. But what you walk away with is significant. You were in that last year?
I was there the year before. So it was when we were all doing university online, and we were like, we were all just stuck in our houses, and then camp was like, you can come live here. And we were all like, yes, people. So yeah, so that experience was really good, just in terms of even for us, as we were all doing like Zoom school all day long, just on our computers in our bedrooms, like when we were at home. And then that, like the semester before I started Flex was just like really hard, like once the lockdown started, and then coming to Flex and being able to like do school together. And even Lori's daughter Julia, we had like 2 classes together, so we like plugged in my computer to a TV and we were watching like the Zoom lecture together at the fort. And we were just like, we were just getting that experience that we were able to get. And then what was really special about our time on Flex is that usually around like 7 p.m. we'd all like gather together and sit around the couches, and we'd read the Bible together. And the first semester of Flex, we would just like, we started at Genesis and we were just like reading the Bible. So we'd get through like 5 chapters of the Bible, just like reading every night. And we'd go through it and then we talk about it and discuss it in our thoughts or questions. So that was really special, just being able to dive together with a community of believers and people who had the same questions or maybe the same doubts. And then the second semester, we were more focused on like the discussion part of it instead of getting through so much of the Bible. That was also really valuable because we'd read like 2 verses and then it'd be like 11 p.m. and we'd still be talking about those 2 verses. And we have like a test at 8 a.m. tomorrow, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, that was really special, just like that intentional time with Flex of growing Christ.
So did you guys actually read through the entire Bible that year?
We skipped around. We didn't have time to finish it, but
why don't you take 20 minutes right now and tell us about Leviticus? I'm just kidding. Do not even get started. Before we move on, the summer camp is so intense and there's so much that goes on, but I'm sure there's still stories that you're carrying with you. Is there a story that you just are like, wish everybody could hear from your time from camp? And if you have one, please share it.
Okay. It was one of the last weeks. It was like 13-year-olds, I think. I don't remember all their names, but we did like this worship night thing at the fort. And then when it was over and everyone was like in tears basically, because it was a powerful night, I think, my kids ran away from me and they went up Cross Hill and they weren't allowed or supposed to. But they just like all ran up the hill and I had to run after them. And it was completely pitch black out. And they were like falling on the hill. But when we all got up there, I don't know, we just started talking about Jesus and like how powerful he is and how he really does change lives. And we just had like a long prayer session up there for like 20 minutes, just me in my cabin. And yeah, we shed some tears and talked about how magnificent the stars were and stuff. But I never forgot that.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff comes out of disobedience.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, this is a quick one first that I never forget about. We were playing a game, and one of his campers from that week, just fully clothed, ran off the fort dock, yelling at the fort directors, like, "You can't catch me. I'll never surrender." And he just jumps off, like shoes on, fully clothed, everything. So, that was my favorite. But what some of the like stories of like actual, serious stuff, but just so much like you hear all the times, like, how can we get kids to read the Bible or kids to be interested in God? And it's like, young people don't care about God, or young people, all this stuff that you hear all the time. And it's always very negative. But this summer, like, I just like week after week after week, I had campers who like, after we'd give them their Bible and it was like their first Bible, they don't go to church, they would just start reading it and they would want to read it more. And at the end of the week, they'd be like, "Can I keep it?" Or I had one camper, even the high school week, that was like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about buying a Bible once I get home." And I was like, "You don't need to buy one. We can give you one right now." And I had like camper that was like 10 years old and he read through like a whole book of the Bible his week at camp, just on his own, like unprompted. Then another camper the high school week who read all of Matthew, and he would just like, he would be walking around the fort like with the Bible reading, and like, and he wasn't like a kid who would like normally be like super into reading, like he was very like athletic and all that stuff, but he's like reading Matthew and just like asking all these like super deep questions. And it was just interesting to see that we're always like trying to drag people to read the Bible, but these kids were like hungry for it and wanted to like read the word and learn more about God, and they were asking questions, and like some of them had never had an experience at church, or some had terrible experiences at church, but they were all like hungry for Jesus and wanting to know more, and they were all searching for questions. And it was just really encouraging that these kids come here and they come for the fun, but they also are interested in God and they're listening to us talk about God. And like, when we're excited about Jesus and about his love, that it like reflects on them too, and they start to be interested. And that was just so powerful to me seeing, just in the past 2 years, it had been discouraging for me, like people in my life who I'd grown up with at church who were like not going to church anymore, but then having like these campers here, and from all ages, from like the 8-year-olds to the 17-year-olds that I had in my cabins, there were so many of them that were just always so interested in learning more about Jesus and who wanted to seek him. And that was so encouraging for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I know that kids learn from example, and clearly you guys brought passion this summer and gave that to the kids. So thank you so much. Tanya, anything you want from these guys before I kick them off stage? Thanks, and a round of applause again for these guys. All right.
We are going to actually watch a video. Some of our staff who are around the world, around this country and across the world right now, who spent the summer at camp. So enjoy that.
Hello, my name is Nora Gartley. I'm here in Albania at Crossroads Torchbearers.
Hi, my name is Kenzie, and I am right now living just outside of Calgary. I'm going to the University of Calgary, shocker, and I'm studying English and Bio, hoping to be a teacher.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nolan. I am currently at Briarcrest Christian College taking biblical studies.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abigail Daviduck, and I live in Abbotsford, British Columbia.
Hello, SABC family. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Charlotte, and I am currently in the very beautiful Kona, Hawaii. I am here for a 3-month Bible school with YWAM.
We would have worship nights with junior high weeks, and this one week I had a couple girls and we were all singing the worship songs, and then after we were just sitting on the hill. And this week was a little bit different. A lot of the girls in my cabin didn't actually know Jesus. I would say maybe 2 out of all of them, out of 8, would call Jesus their savior. And so it was a unique week where none of them were really against God, but they didn't really have him in their life. But this specific night, we were all laying on the hill and we were looking up at the stars. And I was sitting a little bit back from this one group of girls, and they were just ahead of me, and I could hear them. They were singing the words of Waymaker over and over again, just a cappella, just randomly under the stars. And it was a beautiful example of how God really touches the hearts of those who might not know him.
And I remember it was, I believe, the 3rd week of camp, and we'd asked these questions, and we had a camper share, and it was a girl that I hadn't connected with too much that week. I knew she had like a really fun time, but I didn't necessarily talk to her too much. And she shared that her statement what did she learn about God, was that God was real and that God loves her. And for me, that was something that really stuck with me throughout the other weeks of camp.
One of my favorite stories from this past summer at SABC was, I was working as a cabin circle director at the Lakeside Cabin Circle. And so we had a lot of younger kids. And so we were doing a splash camp, which is, I think, grades 2 to 3 around there. And so there was this troubled camper. He kind of wandered off, was sitting behind a cabin, not having the best day. So I went to go check on him. He was kind of like drawn in the dirt as I walked over. And so I was talking with him. And eventually I just asked him, like, what are you drawing, bro? And he said, oh, this is my cabin leader. This is John. And I was like, oh, nice. It's a really good drawing. What's that thing on John? And then the kid was like, oh, that's a big heart, because I know John cares for us.
My biggest, yes, God is so cool, is the fact that I was able to disciple the Toledo students and see them come to understand God's love for them more personally, as well to understand what it is to love the Lord through our thoughts and our words and our actions, as well what it is to love our neighbor.
One story I have is of a girl who came to work on support staff. So I got to know her pretty well through one-on-ones and working with her. And heard about her life, and it was a hard year. And she was struggling with the idea of God's goodness and his love. Just said it feels like a fairy tale, doesn't feel possible. She came multiple weeks, and one of the weeks that she was there, we had a worship night up on Cross Hill. And it was a beautiful night. The lake was calm and the stars were out so clearly. And she said earlier she had prayed, God, can you just show me how much you love me? And later that night looked up and said she could see the words, I love you, written in the stars. She came and found me and was bursting with excitement, and I knew without a doubt that God is the maker of the stars. He hears my prayers and loves me more than I can imagine. And it was just amazing to hear her go from, I don't know if God loves me, to, I know without a doubt that he does. And I'm not going to forget this moment.
If you haven't experienced a community like this, you need to. I have never felt more like the hands and feet of Jesus than when I was working at camp. I think the work that we do at camp has an eternal impact, and these kids aren't just temporarily going to be saved, but they'll be saved into eternity.
Some of us staff kind of had a joke that we work hard and play hard, and that is so true. Most of our days that were considered work really felt like a lot of fun and a lot of play, because that is how we connect with kids, and it's also how we are able to show them love and encouragement and grace.
If you've never been to camp before, it's hard to explain, but it does feel like home. And I know staff say that, but it really is true. Just the community there, founded on God's love, you feel welcome and safe and free to be yourself. And it's really cool.
I want to say thank you to those who support SABC. As I said, your investment to SABC has an eternal impact, and I don't think we'll see the fruits of that until we go to heaven. I want you to trust that God is changing lives at camp, and so though you might not see it when you give money or give prayer towards the camp, lives are being changed, and God's doing a big work through SABC.
It takes a huge army of people to make this camp possible, between all the different roles that happen on site and then off site as well. It takes a huge army to make it possible, and every role is critical and vital. And so I want to say a huge thank you for the role that you've played in that, and know that you are making a difference in the lives of kids.
Thank you, because camp cannot run without the support of its churches and individuals, financially or by support of prayer. And so we appreciate it a lot, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you to all the churches and people who have supported SABC. You have made a difference. You've just heard all of these stories about how God has been moving, and it's only possible by your generosity.
All right, John, why don't you come on up? I think this thing. Do you think you can actually do better than your kids just did? I don't think so either.
No, thank you, Scott. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I know it's 12:05, and we've got a little bit more time here. Don't worry. Dave knows we are going to be late, because we always are every year. But I've got some things that first for me, and this is the way it's going to go. And this doesn't go up higher. Whatever. What we've got to do is we've got to pass the budget. And we have a motion to pass the budget and pass these reports that you've kind of read here. And so what I'm going to do is do a little bit of explanation as far as some of our priorities for the following year and how we came up with the budget that we did. You can follow along on the sheet if you want. I'm not going to go line by line with this proposed budget here. I'm not going to go line by line, like I said, but I'm just going to talk about a few things. First of all, again, thanks for letting us have a little bit of fun here as well. This is what camp is about. It's about having fun as well as getting to the nitty-gritty of the business as well. So you've heard stories, you've read reports about the past year have gone, And I hope you're able to get a better understanding of what happens here at camp and the things that goes on and the amazing ways that God works here. So about our budget for revenues coming out of COVID, there's a resurgence of interest in renting our facility. And so we budgeted a fair amount, but I'd like you to know we've already actually booked $600,000 in revenues for the coming year. And so that's booked. That's actually in the books. And so we have deposits on those rentals. I know Lori, she inquires every day, and she can't fit everybody in. And we're just limited as right now as to the size of our facility, as well as the type of groups that are coming, as well as our staff team and the size of that as well. But we're very encouraged with that. And it keeps our facility operating and rolling through the year. For our summer camp, we're budgeting to be 85% full next summer. This year we were 75% full. And again, coming out of COVID, we had no idea. I'm optimistic. I want to be full. But I think next year we'd be able to I think, again, it was such a great summer, and there's some momentum with that moving into next year. And so the income from registrations on that budget and the amount needed for all the board reflects this. For the expenses, the budget shows increases due to our current economic situation. Food costs are up, as well as utilities and fuel for sure. Again, if you have questions, you can text that number 915-4445, or when Doug and Ted come up here, you can ask us as well. The staff wages increase reflects a couple of new positions that we hired. We hired Luke Rayfuse, who's one of our flex directors, as well as we hired Jason Eichhorst, and he's one of our cooks in the kitchen. And so that reflects some of that, as well as some wage increases for sure for the year. If you turn the page for the capital, or you look in the middle, in the very center part of this report, it shows some of our capital investments that we'd like to make for this year. And last year we presented kind of a 5-year plan where we wanted to make some investments in these 5 key areas. One of them is direct camper impact. One of them is program vibe, which kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with the direct camper impact. Site improvements, vehicles and equipment, and debt retirement. And so for the first one, for the direct camper impact, we were unable to get that dock done this last year, but we're going to work towards that. We've had some communication with the government. We've had one level approved, and so we're moving to the kind of the next level, and we're hoping again next fall to finish this project. The reason why we have to wait until the fall is they have to draw down the lake so we can actually get into the lake bed and do the work inside the lake bed. We will, once we get approved by the government, we will work on building the different components of it so it can be installed in the fall. I'm excited about that project. The cabins, John alluded to that before. And then we go into the program vibe. You know, when you buy one canoe, it's like $1,700, but when you have to buy 12 and then 25 kayaks, and again, it's one of those things where we just have not invested into this area over the last probably 10 to 15 years. And so the dollars kind of add up, but our canoe fleet and our kayak fleet is aging, and we need to replace those, and that's why that is. And that's, again, something that our campers can come. Canoeing's, our waterfront's a centerpiece of camp. And so coming there and being a part of and using equipment that's good, that doesn't sink. And there's a story behind that. You know, I mean, it's positive, right? It's good. And it shows excellent. It shows these campers that we love them as well. Dave, our cook, lives in. We've never finished the basement. And so we want to finish this coming winter. He's got his 3 girls that are grown up, and there's no bathroom downstairs either. And so we want to finish that up for him and his family. And then within 5 years, we want to renovate the upstairs as well. Irrigation, his yard as well as Keller's yard. We're using paid for water to irrigate their trees and lawns. So we would like to install a pump and a system that takes water out of our canal and gets those trees and grass growing here too. And along with that, some of our trees are, I don't know if you've noticed in the summer, if you've been here, our trees are 40 plus years old and they're dying. And so when's the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago. When's the next best time? Tomorrow, right? Or today. And so, but we need irrigation here and we need fencing. So our plan is to build a kind of an area for a tree farm. We're going to use that sewage irrigation that we have there. We have permission to use that to irrigate a tree farm, but we got to get that all set up and going. So that's what that piece is. So we can get those trees growing. Once they get to a certain height, then we'll get them onto our property again, replacing the trees that are dying. Vehicles and equipment, we've got listed there. Ovens, we've got fort ovens that were moved from this building to the fort when we built the new, and they were 30 years old when we moved them. So we just need to upgrade those ovens. The Dave's Meals thing at Christmas, or it's a fill your freezer event. If you guys want some great food, it's a little overpriced. Not too much, because it's really good, but it's a fundraiser for our ovens, and you can put some amazing camp food, and I know Melissa and I will be doing that for sure. But that's going to specifically toward the ovens. A tractor is on there as well. We've got a tractor that's been amazing, and we've been able to use it. It's undersized for what we need it for. To even pull the wagon that we have loaded down with kids, we only have certain people that drive that thing, and it only goes certain places. And so we need to upgrade that. It will help us with our removing snow and other things around here. So that is one of the things. We are actually working with a donor right now who's very intrigued with this. And so who knows how much that person will give towards this. And a boat lift. We make these plans, and I've talked with Keller about this a little bit. We make these plans, and we have no idea how the Lord's going to provide. We have no idea. We can just lay it out here. This last year, we've got these boats that we run here at the camp. We've got a fleet of, I think, 4 or 5 boats, and they're aging, and we use them a lot every day, hours on end every day, and they just get used and used and used, and it's a fun part of camp. But we have no plan to replace those boats. But lo and behold, one of our supporters phoned me up and he said, "Can you go get my boat from Whitefish and you can have it?" Not Whitefish, Idaho, sorry. What's the place is that? Sandpoint. So my friend Cam and he drove. I didn't even have to drive. And we went and picked up this beautiful $60,000 boat. And he just gave it to us outright. We applied for a grant from the government of Alberta for trucks. I don't know if you've ever seen Barry's van. You've heard it, right? Because it doesn't have a muffler, but if you've seen it, it's got a different colored door on it. Anyways, we put a grant in, and they gave us a 2015 Ford F-150 truck. It's incredible. So the Lord finds creative ways to help us, and our maintenance team is so thankful. And debt retirement. If you have any questions, other than that, now is the time as well to ask questions. Doug might fill in some blanks as well here. And then once these are approved, then I've got a few more things to say, and you guys can exit.
Not really. The numbers are there for you, and you can look at the proposed budget for the operating fund as well as the capital fund. The one thing I would point out on the capital fund is we are budgeting for the final mortgage retirement of $400,000, so that's booked there. And then we also are planning on selling the Champion House for $200,000, and those two numbers make up the positive picture for the capital fund, which then would end up at the end of the year with $465,000 available for future capital endeavors. The general donations would be used to cover the items that John has spoken to.
Any questions before we move to the question? There being none, Doug's presentation constitutes a motion to approve the operating budget as presented. Is there a second? I can see, oh, it looks like Bryce. Do I have it right? Steve's. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? There being none, that carries. Capital budget, Doug's presented and moved. Approval, second. Somebody wave that I can see. I think I had Gwen, yeah? Okay, Gwen Warkentine. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? That too is carried. Thanks, John. The floor is yours.
All right, as I reflect on the history of SABC, so I've been here for a few years, but I haven't been here since 1943, but there have been some milestone events over the years. All right, if you can all read that. So, 43 was the first camp, and we moved 4 times before settling in Vauxhall for 25 years. Then the Ruggles family gave us this piece of property here that this lodge sits on, and we were able to build $1 million lodge here. And the first director was hired, first year-round director. And then we were able to, Frank passed away. And that was an incredible gift to the camp to be able to buy that, because it was our entrance. We'd be stuck here, right? Or we'd never be able to get here. 1993, the fort's constructed. Welcome new campers. 2009, 2009 to 11, lodge at Travers, and then this building that replaced our old lodge that we're so very thankful for. So I guess the question, when I think about even my job as a director and kind of what we've been focused on, what I've been telling our staff, not that I tell them not to dream, but it's like for the last 16 years, 2006 was the first file on my computer. I think I've mentioned that before, as far as building this building. So for the last 16 years, we've been spreading a vision to replace our lodge and to build this and to build this. And now in 2022, what's next? It's almost like, do I have any purpose? Not really, but it's just like, wow, this has been 16 years. If you think about it, 16 years is a long time. And we can be so thankful for what we've been able to do and what the Lord has provided here for the camp, because I truly believe now we have a foundation from which we can grow from here for years and years and years. I've already laid out our goals and priorities for investment for the next 5 years. But here's a question that I have. It's, what if an opportunity arises that we could never have planned for? So as you've heard today, SABC is a training ground for leaders. There's an intentional effort to mentor and disciple young people in whatever capacity they're involved in here at SABC. I strongly feel that this aspect of leadership development needs to continue to be invested in here at camp. There's so much potential to have a greater impact in the lives of young people. I stand here and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this video, and you saw 2 Gartleys up here, right? Like, these kids have grown up here. And I'm so very proud of them. And it was a very neat thing to be able to work with every single one of them. And Nate, he was on a video camera. Oh, he's right here. Oh, he's on a video camera right here. Right on. Cool. But just to be able to serve with my kids, here at camp, for Melissa and I to be able to be here at camp together with them and to see them. And they're a product of what camp has done in their lives. But I truly believe that now more than ever, we need to train young people to be strong men and women. We need to help them to understand what is true. We need to help them to have courage to stand up for what is right, to learn how to serve others well. And I truly believe that SABC can have a significant impact in this area, and we're working hard to make it happen. We've talked about Flex. Ted said, when are we talking about Flex? I think we've been talking about it through. You've heard from Nathan, you've heard from about Julia, you've heard some of the different things that we're doing. It's a 7-month program designed for high school grads that exists to provide an opportunity for these young adults to grow as leaders and deepen their faith. And we get to do that all in the context of camp. This is done in part through reading and studying the Bible, as we've talked about, serving in various roles. And I think that's a key piece, is serving in various roles and capacity at camp, but also in local churches and our local communities, and living together in a community setting, in a home, learning how to become adults, growing up. I see so much potential in this program, and I love what our leaders are doing and working towards. So as I stated before, what if an opportunity arises that we could never have planned for? And so I'm just going to present something to you that of an opportunity that may have happened, all right? Or it may have happened, that has presented itself. So there's a property adjacent to SABC that has come up for sale. Never thought the owners would ever sell. We've been friends with these owners for years and years and years. Yet it's a property that is just on the northeast corner of our property. Jerry Steves used to own that property, actually. It includes a 5-bedroom cabin home, a garage with 3-season living suite, a couple of other sheds, and some equipment. The owners have been our neighbors, again, for many years. And as I've sat down with them, they would love for it to come to SABC. They would love it. They don't want it to become an Airbnb that hosts stag parties there on the end of the lake. It has been sold fully furnished. It is pricey. It's well over $1 million. The cabin and property would facilitate our Flex program almost perfectly. It has a master bedroom on the main floor, 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 downstairs. There are common areas on each floor. And I think this is the key. It would be a home for these young people to come and be a part of a 7-month intensive program to be able to grow as adults and grow as leaders. You know, I threw up a few other things here. There's other examples of where this has worked. There's a place in France that does this. Friends of ours, Robin and Leslie Hildebrand, do this in France. There's a place, there's a camp in Kaleo that has a place specifically for their Kaleo program. You may have seen that on my son's hoodie. He's wearing another camp hoodie. I don't know. Great. But he took the Kaleo program. Nora's at Cape and Ray right now. They do something very similar. And then at TWU in Ottawa, they have a house there that people live in community and they grow and they take their education there. So I believe this is an opportunity for SABC that might have come up at just the right time. And we have had this program that is up and running. It's called Flex again, but it needs a little push. We have some great leaders. We have completed our lodge and we're looking forward to what's next. And so I think this might be it. But I'm going to invite Ted and Doug up here, and I'd love to answer any questions that you may have as we move to the next portion of our thing. We're wrapping it up here, folks.
We have tried in an abbreviated session to give you a vision for what our staff are telling us we could do with Flex. You got a hint from the presentations that what happens here in young people's lives is mind-boggling. And we now believe that God is telling us we need to expand Flex hugely. I think it's something like 8 and 8. Yeah. So we're talking about 8 men and 6 and 6, 6 men and 6 women, obviously, at that facility. So we think that that God is calling us in that direction, and we're going to wait back to hear from you because we're going to ask you to vote in a few minutes. It's public information that this place is listed for sale. It's listed at 1.8. We're not interested actually in talking about a negotiated price at this meeting. We think that would be unwise. All we know is that we believe God is calling us towards this property. We're getting good feedback from them that they would like to sell it to us. So that's what we know. And so we're curious about your feedback, and we're going to ask you to give us some indication. Doug, why don't you talk about that?
Well, I think it's something, we've discussed this at the board level, and it's not very often that property adjoining you comes up for sale. So I'd like to make a motion that we, as Southern Alberta Bible Camp, 5.26 acres of land and buildings, and that we at our AGM, our membership, authorize the board to enter into appropriate negotiations, which could include borrowing funds to facilitate the possible purchase. We have some legwork to do, of course. We're not sure these neighbors, how much they really, really love us. Is that a big discount or a carrying of some monies or whatever? So there's a lot of exploring to do, but I think this motion, because we can't do that here today. So this motion gives the board the authority to continue on with these negotiations and see where that leads us. And if we, as an entity, have to borrow some funds, the board would have the authority to do that. So I would make that motion. We need a seconder, and then we can have further discussion, and we need to vote on this.
In order for us to borrow, we must have your permission. So that's what this motion is all about, is giving us authority to borrow what we need to borrow. If in God's grace, he gives us the direction that we should actually borrow to buy that one down the road here. Is there any questions for any of us about this motion to approve borrowing? Yeah, Doug reminded me, I need to put a second to get this on the floor. Do I have, I heard you, is it Doug? You guys know who that is. Yeah, George, Bud, my vice chair, our vice chair. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, they do pay a tuition for Flex. Yep.
Great question. There being no questions, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of approving the motion, say aye. All opposed? There being done, that motion is carried. Thank you very, very much. Doug, the meeting is coming to a conclusion, and our job is done. You're giving that motion. Are you coming back? Because you like to talk as much as me. I did all my crying down there. When those screens were going and when these kids were talking, I was weeping over here. Doug comes up here to weep. Doug, are you coming back? Doug and I have talked. He wants to conclude, so what's up?
Talk about weeping. You know, John gave a timeline And God has been so, so faithful. And even through the building of this, the Heritage Hall thing and everything, we needed to borrow some money and we went to a credit union and they were quite receptive to our proposal and so forth. And then I had a very dear friend of mine step up and say, well, why would you be borrowing from a bank or credit union? I've got a little money. I'll put up the money. And we negotiated a very good interest rate, prime less a half. And on October 31st, we presented our mortgage holder with his final payment. And we are here today to burn the mortgage. God is so good.
We're going to have a little mortgage burning here. So everybody to stand up and kind of come around the fire here. Some people can come on the stage as they want. Just come on. We're not going to burn the place down, guys. Don't worry. We just want, yeah. And then we can watch it burn. John's going to take care of that. And then I'd like us to have a prayer time. So if you guys could just pray from where you're standing, and then after a little while, we'll close it off. So give her, John. Let's go. Let's burn this thing. I might just say that in doing all this, my beloved friend had a lawyer that he got to do with the important things. And the lawyer was very skeptical. What is this SABC thing? What if they don't pay? What if you have to foreclose? Are you going to run that camp and all the rest of that stuff? But finally, we put it all together. And to God be the glory. There's the results, and you see what God has done, and we're just so blessed. Let's pray. Anybody wants to do that? Father, I just want to praise you and thank this place. And you continue to bless. And with that, that just brings responsibility to us as a board, responsibility to our leadership. Lord, we want to be found so faithful in your sight. You bless us to the nth degree, and we want to honor and praise your name because of all this. So thank you for being here today, dear Father, and each day that just happens here at camp is special because you are here. Thank you, dear Jesus.
Yeah, Father, so often we are crying to hear your voice, to see your presence, to know you're here. I think that girl that saw the writing in the sky. We see it right here, right now. You are awesome. Your presence is evident. We give you all the glory.
the Father, through Jesus the Son, and give him the glory, great things he hath done.
Lord, we're grateful for your goodness again to us. Thank you for these people around this room that love you so much. And they're just a part of what you're doing here tonight. We give the future of SABC to you. All the negotiations for that, but also more just the planning, finding the staff for next year. It's another year. Lord, I pray that kids would come, and Lord, the kids.
Amen.
And are we going downstairs then? Scott's got a
Perfect. Thank you. Dad, why don't you come on up here for a second? Yeah, I love embarrassing you. Come on up. Yes, we're going to go for lunch right away. So you just head straight down. He's going to be ready for us here. If you are wandering around the building, just realize that there are a couple of groups here. So there are some places. Just pay attention to signage. If they say don't go in there, don't go in there. Though we've seen that disobedience brings us closer to God, maybe not in this particular situation. A round of applause for Karina and the AGM band over here. Thank you so much for playing along. And Dad, why don't you say grace for us here for lunch?
Our Heavenly Father, we are truly, truly grateful that we can gather together and see what you have done and what you continue to do with this place. Lord, we ask your blessing as we gather together in joy and another meal here. Lord, we are truly, truly grateful. We know that you own the cattle on 1,000 hills, and we see the evidence of that here. And Lord, as we go our separate ways, we pray for your safety and your blessing in each and every one here. We pray this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, one and all.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.